Hello, everybody. You are watching a video version, obviously, of my rants and raves, and I am joined by Joel Rollins. Joel, how are you?
I'm great, Gary. Other than we've got 2 feet of snow about to start here, I wish I were with you in Amsterdam.
Well, interestingly enough, it snowed last night, just barely. We're here at the ISE show in Amsterdam, and we got like a dusting of snow, and we were all excited that it was going to snow, selfishly, because if it snowed, that means no one would show up, so all the manufacturers would have nothing to do but to talk to us. So we were kind of excited about that. Didn't work out. Interestingly enough, the attendance today was larger than yesterday. They definitely broke last year's attendance record. Close to 70,000 already have come through the show, which is 5,000 more than last year. Big show. Lots to talk about today. Lots of cool things I saw. But I'd love to see if you saw anything.
Actually, no, I've been monitoring what's not there. And I'm actually thinking in the next few days, I am going to do a post about what people missed at the show and they're not comparing it to. Things like the Google Jamboard and a number of the new products that are coming out that are heavily in use in the AV industry, but not yet being exhibited in our shows.
Yeah, and I mean, you say that, and I just talked to someone at Infocus who said the same thing. He's like, how could we have an industry like this with that product, as popular as that product's probably going to be when it ships, and not have that company in the show? And that's you bring up a really interesting point. There are a lot of products that aren't here at the show.
Right. I mean, yesterday, the show news, not just from us, but from everyone else, was the Cisco Spark board is going to change everything. But in fact, I've looked at the two of them, and, Google's going to play there too. And almost because of the websites that I look at, my inserted pop-up ads now are for Sparkboard and Jamboard.
Yeah.
But nobody in the industry is talking about Jamboard yet.
Yeah, and maybe it's because it hasn't shipped, or maybe people don't want to see Google get in our market. I don't know which one.
I'm surprised. BenQ is manufacturing it for them. Are they not there?
Good question. I have not been. They were here last year. I've not been to that part of the hall, but that's a good question. I wonder if they're actually there, because I know in the U.S. they're the distributor for the product, so maybe it's there. Speaking of that product line, one thing that should be mentioned is I actually did an interview today with Brady of Infocus. I'm going to write an article about that because, they invented that category.
Oh, sure. Oh, MondoPad.
I mean, think about the MondoPad. Like, they really invented the category, and all of a sudden now everyone's copying it, so they validated it.
We've done a lot with sharing boards, obviously, but the big difference is the products like the MondoPad and Microsoft's product, which is kind of nowhere in the market despite what they've done with it, are flexible, but they're not what Sparkboard or Jamboard are, which are boards that give you a system, right? MondoPad gives you the ability to do whatever you could do with a computer on MondoPad. What the Sparkboard does and what the Jamboard does is they bring it down to, here is a system for document sharing and video sharing built into the board. So it's guided as opposed to MondoPad, which is open. So there's a big difference between.
I will say that the advantage that MondoPad has, at least right now, is that.
And actually, didn't Smart really invent the category?
Well, sort of. It is kind of interesting. You could argue that. Of course, they were focused at education at the time. And MondoPad said, hey, maybe this will work in the corporate market. The one thing I would say is, Cisco, if you buy into the Cisco ecosystem, the Sparkboard is the product for you.
Absolutely.
If you've bought into the Windows ecosystem, then probably the best product right now is MondoPad. If you've bought into what this new Google Drive / Google Apps system is going to be on the Google Jamboard, it's going to be the system for you. Here's one thing that I learned today, however. There's a big report coming out from a analyst organization, big analyst company. And by the way, they're cleaning the room behind me, as you can see.
Right.
And that the size of that market is going to be $1.4 billion next year, right?
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
So if you have 10% of that market, you're perfectly happy. So you don't have to be Cisco, you don't have to be Google, but a company like MondoPad, who can get maybe 10% of that market, still could be $150 million company of MondoPads. They'll be perfectly happy with that. That market's going to be huge, and that's going to the impact of that we should talk about, and that is the impact of that is less projectors potentially and less flat screens that are sort of dumb screens, I guess you'd say.
Oh, sure. Sure. Well, we're already going to the point where almost all the big flat screens we're installing are touch screens so that people can do stuff like that with them. The interesting thing about Jamboard that no one's thinking about is if you are one of those companies that's already using Google for your email and everything,
Yep.
Jamboard's like on your account the day you buy it, right?
As Make it a calendar appointment, it turns itself on.
Right.
I mean, it seems like a perfect. That's why I think Cisco's SparkBoard is going to be so popular among Cisco users. Like if you're a Cisco ecosystem, they're going to like if I were you as an integrator, I'd be going to all my Cisco customers right away and saying, I need to sell you a whole bunch of product. And where is Polycom? Where is Logitech and all this?
Well, I mean, I do know a couple of the things that Polycom's working on. I mean, they had their own media board for a while. Now they're doing it with the EFI product. But there's also some stuff in the works. Okay. And you know, to be honest, that market, my big customers have been putting in document sharing boards forever. The real numbers in that market are going to come from SMB.
Yep.
And the Jamboard is so much less expensive and easier to use. I don't know. I think Jamboard's going to have a real place in that market, and we're not talking about it in the industry yet.
Yeah, I want to shift a little bit. I agree with you. I want to shift with you a little bit. I walked a lot of halls today, and we're going to try to keep this podcast short because I want to save some stuff for tomorrow and surprise them. But
I'll shut up.
No. The one thing that struck me that I know struck you last year is, oh my God, the number of LEDs. They're all over the place. There's like twice as many as last year. And that's the future of the market. No question, the future of the display market is definitely OLED or LED, either one. Mm-hmm. So the question is going to be, how do you differentiate yourself as a manufacturer? Because you've got companies like Layard, and you got Silicon Core, you got Barco, you got Christie, and you got NEC. But then you have Syngin times 10 and a bunch of other overseas companies or Asian companies that are coming into the market who are going to flood the market with product, and they're not bad products. At least at first glance, they don't seem to be bad product. They seem to be very competitive. There's a bunch of new companies here that have very large displays, and you know more about that than I do because you lived for a long time in the live events market. Certainly, a product can look good, but if it can only last for 3 days, is it going to do any good?
Right. Well, the big, you know, I mean, everybody's using portable LED stuff now, and everybody has really added to its ease of use on site. I mean, there's a lot of that. The next big thing will be flexibility.
Yep.
Literally,
you're right. There's a lot of flexibility, flexible, bendable, hangable, curtainable displays.
When you get one of those with real brightness and color accuracy, and it's flexible, it's the next thing that will make the big impact on the market.
So the question is, for these Asian companies coming over to the U.S., they're going to have to differentiate themselves quite a bit to catch on because they're going to be fighting and competing with some big brands. Another thing that happened that we didn't talk about yesterday. So here's something that happened yesterday. Barco seized KenX Pro's Barco ClickShare, what they call knockoff product. Yeah. So Barco they got a legal person from a court order to go into the KenX Pro booth and take out their I forget the product all of a sudden now.
Yeah,
it escaped my name, but it's their ClickShare competitive product.
We call it the ClickShare clone.
Yeah, the My Turn product, and so that was a big story here yesterday. That happened last night after our podcast. So that's not happening on a show floor
in a long time. And my hat's off to the marketing people at Barco, because you can't tell me they didn't wait with that court order until the show opened so that they could do it as a stunt at the show.
I don't know, but I did go to Barco and talk to them about that, and they said you can expect us to become more and more serious about protecting our intellectual property, because not because we're trying to be mean, but because we want to protect our investment. We invested a lot of money in the R&D of this. There are a lot of products that look like theirs, but they also know that there are some products that look like theirs that aren't using or haven't stolen their technology. So they do have respect for the companies that didn't do that. So I think we'll find out over the next few days, or at least next few weeks, because they did say they sent out a couple of dozen cease and desist orders to companies, and they'll see if they abide by them.
Interesting thing is, like, the ClickShare has become like Kleenex. It's the word that people use in the customer end for anything that does that, right?
Yeah.
We want one of those ClickShare things. And then you'll find some of them with, alternative product. I don't blame Barco for protecting it. Frankly, I thought it was the kind of thing you would have advised them to do.
Well, I mean, I didn't have anything to do with it, but I think it's interesting, and it happened at a trade show. And, as far as I'm sure that sends a little bit of a message, which is what they were trying to do. I mean, the representative Barco literally said, we sent the first salvo. That's exactly the term he used. We sent them. So anything else? Did you check out anything on our site? Did you hear anything from any of the other sources you have of things?
Yeah, I was looking through all the news on your site. I mean, the other thing that really, it's kind of interesting because at this distance, what I'm getting now is more of an overview than you're kind of micro-focused when you're at the show.
Yeah.
One of the things that really impressed me is the progress that Dante's made. I mean, it's I mean, we're using a ton of it, and it's everywhere. And I guess, I'm watching for that base whatever thing to play out because obviously at the top end of the market, at the end of it, what we need is an easily manageable system that moves video and audio synchronized over the network.
Right.
And you've got a couple players at the top, but whoever it is, I mean, Dante is probably the most practical at this point of all of the products that are out there, maybe because it's been out the longest. But, it's just a matter of who's going to incorporate that, because with the amount of Dante hardware going out there, whoever is the final winner of the video audio standard has to incorporate them.
You're right.
Because there's going to be so much out there.
And that's going to be a bellwether because you have both AMX and Crestron here at the show launched AV over IP systems that use gigabit Ethernet, anywhere from 1 to 10 gigabit, depending on what you want to do. However, I agree with you. I think none of them are going to catch on unless they say video over AV over IP and Dante enabled. Because I think that's the key.
With Dante as a contribution device, if that's all it takes,
I agree with you, and I think that's when you'll know that product's going to take off is when they're doing AV over IP with Dante, and I think you should write about that because I don't want to steal that idea from you because I think you should run with that. I think that's going to be a big thing that integrators, because the integrators are going to see all of these companies come out with video over IP and AV over IP products, and they're going to wonder, who should I get? Who should I try out? But your answer should be whoever adopts Dante with their standard, because none of them are doing it yet. And you're right. Dante has over 200 manufacturers, over 1,000 devices, products, using the Dante standard right now. And you'd know that more than me, but it's definitely the standard. And there's not an audio company here at the show that doesn't have a Dante sign in their booth.
Right, and that's important. I mean, if you look at every corporate boardroom I do, the microphones and stuff are Dante based. So if we wanted to upgrade that to an IP only standard, it's going to have to incorporate it, or it's going to cost a fortune to replace the hardware.
Yep. Yeah. In fact, Bose launched here at the show an audio conferencing system that encompasses analog sources and Dante sources using little Dante under table mount boxes that you can put all over the room, and you can do fairly large systems with this system. So it does full-on audio conferencing using Dante. They've even adopted the Dante standard. You can get more information on our website. You go to ravepubs.com/ISE2017. You can see all of our news. Type in Bose in the search window in the top right corner. You'll see that product. And you'll also see, you can type in Dante and you'll probably see a few dozen new products that were launched here at the show. Hey, Joel, I want to save something cool for tomorrow. So I don't want to talk about this, but I'm excited about it. But I want to hear is there any one product that you've seen that we reported on or you've heard about that you're excited about yet, or do you have an opinion? While you're thinking about that, I'll tell you mine. There's a lot of new products here, but not a lot of super innovative products. The Spark board was innovative in the sense that it changed the way that people look at the Spark platform. And there are some other technologies. I did see a 0.6 millimeter, Joel, 0.6 millimeter today in the Layard booth, LED.
Really?
It was 35. It was about 30-inch diagonal, so it's small. It was a prototype, 0.7 millimeter. Sorry, 0.7 millimeter. That is small. That's close to DirectView LCD. And I also got a sneak peek at a new silicon core where they took the PC board and mounted it to the back of the LED, so it's one superstructure as opposed to separate pieces. So those are two things that have impressed me in addition to some of the things we've already talked about. Is there something that has impressed you?
Actually, it's more evolutionary than revolutionary. And you're right, the Spark board was probably my pick for what's being shown at the show. Again, I think I'm about to do a podcast after, if this storm lets up, I'm about to do a podcast on what's not at the show that you should have seen. But let me know when you go by BenQ if the Jamboard's
I'm definitely going to do that because I'm curious. You have a good point there. No one has talked about it, and I've been to a few booths that have said, why is Google not here? So maybe they're going to be there in the BenQ booth. Maybe they'll be there in BenQ booth at Infocom. But hey, Joel, thanks for joining me. Thanks for doing these podcasts with me. Joel Rollins, you can check him out on our website at ravepubs.com. You can check him out on LinkedIn. He's got a great LinkedIn profile, right, Joel? He even tweets every once in a while.
Every once in a while. I'm earlier than the social media era. Okay, well, as soon as I finish shoveling my driveway, I'll be back with you, Gary.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to join us again tomorrow. And, of course, you can follow all of our coverage of ISE at ravepubs.com/ISE 2017. Thanks for joining us.
Have a good night.